So this presentation is called One Property Away. I truly believe everyone is one property away from changing their lives. Real estate does not have to be, investing in real estate does not have to be complicated. And so I'm going to show you some things in this presentation that are it's a very simplified presentation. There's easy to follow along math. I promise you, you are going to learn something. Okay. It's going to be well worth your time. Stick it through and you can hit us up with any question you like throughout. Okay. So let's jump right into this. So about me, very quickly, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on me, but that's my amazing wife, Jennifer, my two children, Holt and Jagger, and our golden retriever, Jersey. So I'm a mortgage broker. I've been a mortgage broker for 11 plus years. And my why, 5-6 years ago, I'll be honest with you, I was running a successful brokerage and I sort of lost my passion. We were making money, which is, I thought was the end all be all, when we got into a 100% commission business. And I just didn't feel fulfilled. It was tough to get out of bed in the morning. And so I was this close to leaving the industry. My wife talked me back into it and I just sort of aligned my priorities different. I come across a lot of families in Ontario that have a lot of equity in their home. They're working 2 jobs, or it's a single income family. They don't have retirement plans. And I started to see a trend here on missed opportunity. And so in seeing that, I decided to change my attention and my perspective on what I was doing. And I felt like I needed to impact more people. And so I started to show people how they could buy their own investment property. Okay. And that's now my niche. My niche is we do everything mortgages, but if there's one thing we do extremely, extremely well, it is giving you the mindset, the belief, the math, the budgeting to empower you to buy your first investment property. And so this presentation that you're going to watch today, I think deep down, all of us as Canadians, we're so passionate about real estate. We're so passionate about the weather. It's another thing, but we always want to talk about real estate. And we all know that it makes sense to buy it. But I had this question, why haven't more people bought an investment property? So I reached out to a bunch of my past clients and I asked them that question. And I thought the answer I was going to get was going to be, I'm risk adverse. I don't want to lose money. And that was the farthest thing from the truth. The answers I got were, don't know if we can, don't know where to start, don't want to be a landlord, and don't know how to. And that was really it. So I said, okay, light bulb went off. I created this presentation to answer those questions and those concerns. Okay. So that's what you're about to witness tonight. All right. So I want to get this out of the way up front because I used to keep this to the end. And then I had some people who would watch the presentation, because I've done this presentation quite a bit. I would say, how was it? And they're like, well, I stopped listening half or 3/4 of the way through because it just sounded too good to be true. And I was wondering when you're going to hit me with money, when you're going to ask me to pay for a monthly membership or a course. And I'm here to tell you that I am never going to ask you for $1, and Lambros is never going to ask you for $1. Okay. This is not a course. This is not a monthly membership. There's no secret formula here. Buying real estate, holding one property, which we're going to talk about today, and we're going to talk about a portfolio too, but majority of our time is talking about one property. Buying one property and holding it for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, that's the formula. So we're just going to walk you through why you need to look at doing that. Okay. So I know there's people out there charging $10,000 for the advice that we're going to give you tonight, plus the ongoing advice that you would have if you decide to partner with us. I know there's very famous people charging $10,000. Okay. But I assure you that is not what we're doing. Okay. So buying one investment property, there's so many different things you can accomplish. But what we're talking about tonight, the formula is built around buying that property and holding it. This is not a rent to own program. This is not a house flipping program. It's a very simplified version of investing in real estate. It's almost dummy proof, and I'll back that up with numbers down the road. Okay. So if you own one property and you own it for 10 years, you could be mortgage free in 10 years. You could essentially pay off your current principal residence you live in right now in 10 years if you decide to sell that property. Okay. So that's one strategy you could have. You could also retire 5 years early. If you were to own an investment property, 10, 15, 20, obviously the longer you own it, this is going to mean different things to different people, but you could absolutely retire early, okay, with one more property. You could create a pension for retirement. I know a lot of us do not have this. I know myself, I do not have a pension. You could also send your kids to any college they want to go to and come out debt-free, okay? 300 families have joined the One Property Away program. I am extremely, extremely proud of this. This is like the one sentence in the presentation that, makes my heart smile. This was when I changed my focus 5-6 years ago on business and how I want to make that impact. We have impacted over 300 families with buying that first property, and many of them have went on to buy property 2, 3, 4. Now, before I jump into the presentation, there's a quick story, Lambros. I told you this the other day, but when we talk about buying a real estate property, these are all the things that can happen. These are the awesome things, and they're usually long-term things. Now, I had a client email me last week, and this client, there was good and bad news in this email. And it was, 45-year-old couple, and they said, Ryan, COVID has sort of smacked our business in the face. They had a small business, and after 15 years, we're closing the doors. And I'm like, geez, wow, I know them. They've been clients of mine for a while. And so that hit me hard. And then I kept reading, and the next paragraph down was, but we just wanted to let you know that 4 years ago, when we decided to buy that first investment property that you convinced us to buy, we just sold that and we cashed out $180,000 that we would not have. And because we did that, we now do not have to sell our principal residence. We don't have to touch our family home. And I was like, wow, that was such an impact. And I always think long-term, I never want to sell properties, but in all reality, buying one investment property, it gives you the ability to protect your current situation, your current family. It's like insurance. You have more, you're leveraged yourself. You have more things out there working for you. And so that really hit home with me. And so I'm telling you that that's the first time I've heard that it actually helps you short-term as well, like a protection plan. Okay. So let's jump into it. What we're going to cover today, we're going to cover some of the basics. I can't assume you know what these mean. We won't spend a lot of time on those, but those are very important terms we're going to go over. We're going to play a game. This is a game where it's a fun game. I like it. The bank is literally telling you where to invest your money, and it'll kind of hit you in the face once you see that. Why I think the GTA H is for Hamilton. Why the GTA Hamilton is the best place to invest in Canada. Hands down, nowhere else better to invest in Canada. Okay, so I'll back that up with why. I'm going to show you numbers, apples to apples, traditional investments that most of us are probably invested in versus real estate. Okay, there's going to be a big wow factor when you see that. And then I'm going to lay out a map, very visual map. I'm going to walk you through. I'm a visual guy. I need to see things laid out. I do this for a living. I'm in the trenches every day. So is Lambros. So for us to tell you, hey, to build a portfolio for retirement, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, you just do this. I'm actually going to lay it out for you on one screen to just show you the moving parts. Okay. And then if you're interested to get started, what the next steps would be. All right. So the basics, what is cash flow? So cash flow is you add up, this is in terms of an investment property. So you add up all of your expenses on owning an investment property. That could be mortgage payment, property tax, condo fees if applicable, heat, tenant insurance, property management if you want. Let's just say that equals $2,000. Now let's say that your rent is $2,200. In that instance, you're going to be cash flow positive $200 a month. If you were getting $1,800 a month in rent, that same example, you'd be cash flow negative $200. So for today, you're going to hear me talk a lot about cash flow neutral. That means 2,000 in, 2,000 going out for all your expenses. Okay. Appreciation. What does that mean? Imagine you put $100 into an investment somewhere, and that investment was now worth $105. That would be 5% appreciation. Okay. And then sort of along the same lines here, ROI, return on investment. If you were to give me $100 and then I give you $105 back, you've earned 5% ROI, return on investment. You're going to hear me talk about that a lot. Here's a big one. This is why you buy real estate, is to increase your net worth. So net worth is basically you add up all of your assets. So real estate, cars, paintings, jewelry, cash in the bank, investments. You put that in one pile. And then the other pile, you add up all the money you owe someone. And I'm hoping that pile is going to be smaller than the other one. But that'll be mortgage, line of credit, car payments, etc. And you subtract the small pile from the big pile, and that's your net worth. So if God forbid something happens to you, your net worth is what your estate would be worth. Okay. And then leverage. We all probably have an idea of this. If you're watching this presentation, I'm assuming you probably own a property already, which means you've taken advantage of leverage. Leverage means using someone else's money. And if you bought your current home with 5%, 10%, 20%, you showed up with a lot smaller portion than the bank did. Okay, so you leveraged someone else's money. Okay, so we're going to talk about this because that's the whole principle of investing in real estate, is really built on leverage, which increases your net worth. Okay, so the one property blueprint, we're going to reference this a lot tonight. I had to pick an investment property, an amount, and so I chose a $500,000 investment property. You could be looking at a 300, a 400, a 6 or a 7. The concept's the same, but for tonight, we're going to reference the one property blueprint. And so for that, for a $500,000 property, you require a $100,000 down payment. Where you get that down payment from, we will cover later. Could be numerous areas: home equity line of credit, equity from your home, a loan, a gift. There's lots of places we can get that. And that's going to allow you to get a $400,000 mortgage, which means a $500,000 investment property. Now, I'm going to show you in this next slide how just owning that one property and holding it for 15 years, sort of what sort of earnings you'd have on that, okay? So I'm making an assumption of a 5% a year appreciation, meaning that after 1 year, that property is going to be worth $525. After year 2, $551 and change with compound interest. Now, the 30-year average in the GTA in Hamilton is 7.39%. So I went lower than that. I'm going to even back this up and show you even lower numbers and that the math still makes sense. But for most of my calculations, we use a 5% appreciation, okay? Which I think is conservative. So you own that property for 15 years. We're not flipping it. Excuse me. We're absolutely not flipping it. And it's not a rent to own. So you're literally owning it for 15 years, not selling it. After 15 years, it's going to be worth $1,039,000. That's a large number. You're probably like, oh, real estate just can't keep going up. And I'm here telling you, it has been decade over decade for 3+ decades. Okay. But I'll back that up with even smaller numbers. The mortgage you're going to have on that property is going to be approximately $250,000. You've acquired $788,000 of equity. And then we're going to pay back the down payment, that initial $100,000 that we borrowed from somewhere. That's going to give you $688,000 of profit. Okay. It's a big number. That's one property. If you own it for 20 years, it's over $1 million. Now, what I did not factor into this is I did not factor in cash flow. I factored in that this is going to be cash flow neutral for a couple of years, meaning no money out of your pocket. But at some point, the rents just keep going up and you will be cash flowing. And there's even properties on the market today where you'll be cash flowing right away if you choose that type of property. That's going to push you a lot closer to $800,000 when you build that out over the years. Okay. So owning one property, when I said it could change your life, just owning one property. Well, if you had an extra $700,000 to $1.1 million after 15, 20 years, that absolutely would allow you to send your kids to school. You could pay off your current mortgage. You'd be done. You'll be mortgage free, 10 years quicker than you thought you could be. So there's a lot of impact here. Okay. And that's just one property. All right. So here's the game we're going to play. The banks are telling us where to invest our money. So let's just assume I gave you $100,000. And the goal of this game is for you to walk into a bank, your bank, and try to get the most amount of money back. Okay. So in scenario 1, you walk into the bank you've been banking at for 20, 25 years, and you say, hi, Mr. or Mrs. Banker, I have a business idea and I have $100,000 of my own money I want to invest. How much will you lend me? Because I need to borrow some money. I don't know if you've ever applied for a business loan. They do not hand those out. They are so hard to get. And that was years and years ago. It's even tougher now. And so I know they're going to give you nothing, but let's just assume they gave you 100,000. Okay. So now you have 200. And then you walk in scenario 2 into the bank you've been banking at for 20, 25 years. And you say, I've got $100,000 to invest with your best financial advisor. Now, can you also lend me some money to invest with your best financial advisor? Like the money's literally not leaving the bank. It's just you're shifting it around behind the scenes. And the person you told me I should be investing my money with is going to invest it. And they're like, oh, not going to do it. I tell you right now, they will not give you $1 unless you have $1 million in investments and you'll borrow it on margin, but they won't give you anything, even though it's their best person. Okay. But I'm going to assume they give you 100,000. And then we're going to go to scenario 3. So you're going to go to a bank that doesn't know you. They don't know you from a hole in the ground. They know nothing about you. You walk in, say that you bought a property, you have $100,000, you have the MLS listing, they're going to go do an appraisal. How much money do you think they're going to give you? $400,000 mortgage. It's the one property blueprint. Okay. So you're showing up with 20%. They're going, oh yeah, for sure. But you don't know me. All I gave you was a pay stub and you pulled my credit, but you don't know me. I've never banked here. They're like, oh, it doesn't matter. We want to be in real estate. That's the game we want to plan. We don't want to be in scenario 1, which is you. They don't want to be in the business of you, unfortunately. They don't want to be in the business of banking on their own financial advisors, although they'll tell you to invest your own money there. But they'll go with a random property with you being a stranger coming in off the street. Okay. So that tells me right there, obviously scenario 1, you're buying a job. That's not a great thing. Scenario 2, it's even higher because they're not even going to give you the 100,000 I gave you. So it's easily 500-600% safer to put your money in real estate. And the banks are like, they're telling you this. They love investing in real estate. They do. And so you should too. So I always say, there's that saying out there, KISS, I think it's keep it simple, stupid. There might be a cleaner version of it, but I tell myself this many times a week. So just like, do what you've already done. You've already bought real estate. You've already won, especially if you've bought in the last 3, 4 plus years, 10 years, 15 years plus, you've won. You've seen the amount of money that you've made in that property. So just repeat that is what I'm asking you to look at. Okay. So why the GTAH is the best place in Canada to invest, hands down, without a doubt. Sorry, let me preface it first. There's always going to be little pockets that pop up here and there. It's a new community, a new development going in. There might be a factory going in over here. So they're going to see like a quick rise in prices. There's always going to be like that next new cool trendy place to go invest. I'm talking 10, 15, 20 years. Where do I want my money? Okay. I don't want to be off in the nooks and crannies hoping like I'll get a little pop for 1, 2, 3 years, maybe. But then what's going to happen on the back 15 years when I own that property? Okay. If I'm in the GTAH, I don't have to worry about that. Okay. So 100 to 125,000 people move here every year. That's crazy. They got to go, they have to live somewhere. And so this is what happens. They go out into the market and they can't get a mortgage or they don't have the money to get a mortgage. So they go and rent. And what that means is there's nowhere to rent. And so investors realize this, the vacancy rate, meaning there's no properties to rent on the market, the vacancy rate goes very, very small. It goes under, it's close to 1% right now. And we'll cover that later, but there's nowhere to go. So investors flood the market. So what happens is it drives the price of real estate up, which in turn helps you. There's a reason your home is worth so much now than it was way back when you bought it. It's because the investors jump in the market because there's so many people here moving here and the demand for rental properties. Okay. You put a property in a good area, a good property up on the market, within 24, 48 hours, you're having competing offers. Okay. The numbers and brackets, I'll explain what that is after. I'm from Calgary. I'm from Alberta. Man, I have family and friends getting crushed out there with the oil industry. And so I know what it's like. I've seen it. I lived 18 years out there, sorry. So we're not relying on one economy here. You know, Toronto's the hub around everything. It's the financial, you know, arguably the second biggest financial economy in North America. There's New York, and then it's between Chicago and Toronto. And so it's a hub. It's an engine. It just keeps on going. Low unemployment rate. Obviously, this was pre-COVID. Take COVID out of it because there's been a lot of, you know, we all know what's happened here. So these numbers will rebound, but this just tells you that pre-COVID unemployment rate was very low, especially being the GTA. It tells you there's a lot of opportunity here, a lot of jobs here, even with 100 and 125,000 people moving here. That's why they're moving here. It's because there's so many jobs. I referenced this earlier, the vacancy rate. This is a great thing if you're a landlord. It means your risk for that property of having no tenants in there, no one to cover your rent is extremely, extremely low. Many times you're getting above what you're actually advertising for the property. Okay. And then number 5, household incomes keep increasing above inflation. That might not mean much to you. It actually doesn't mean much to me. But the reason I put that on here is because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's an investment network called REIN, R-E-I-N, Real Estate Investment Network. They have a checklist of where to invest in Canada, and that's what they do. And they say, if you hit 3 of those 5 things on that checklist, 3 of these things, go invest there. We're hitting 5. Okay, so that means like run and go invest there. We talked about this already. 30-year average for real estate, 7%. Obviously, 1 year could be 2, next year 12. But the 30-year average has been 7. I use 5 and lower for all my calculations in this presentation, okay? And then large companies are establishing offices here. So I don't know if you remember back, probably dating myself here, but that's okay. Starbucks, when Starbucks started popping up everywhere, there was sort of like a poor man's way of investing and understanding where to invest. And it was like, just go where, hey, I have a secret for you. It's just go invest where Starbucks just went. And like, you didn't even have to think it. You just knew, oh, Starbucks is there. It's like, you could go buy real estate from there. And 5-10 years from now, you're laughing. It's because Starbucks had it figured out. They had a commercial real estate department. They knew exactly what they were doing. They're smarter than we are. So the same thing to be said about Uber, Google, and Amazon moving to Toronto. Okay. Testimonials. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because I'm that guy that doesn't like opening up Christmas gifts in front of people, and I don't like this, but this is just to show you that we are real. We're really good at what we do, and we've got over 100 5-star reviews between Google and Facebook. So I'm not going to read those to you. I'm just going to put them there. Shows you we're real people, and we love what we do. Okay. And so do our clients. Okay, so this was shown to me about 5 years ago, and it changed my whole outlook on real estate. I already was trending that way, but this was a big wow factor, and I show a lot of my clients this, especially if I look at what they're doing and I go, hey, like, what's your plan at the end game here? Let me just show you a slide. Let me show you one slide. Let me show you 2 slides, actually, okay? So for this, we're going to compare traditional investments, RRSP, RESPs, mutual funds, TFSAs, wherever you got your money. We're going to compare against real estate. Okay. So to do this, I have to compare apples to apples, and I have to make an assumption. I'm going to assume that you have $400 that you're putting away somewhere. If you don't, that's okay. The math still makes sense, and that's okay. There's still things you can do. But for this, I'm going to say, hey, assume you're putting if it's 100, 300, 1,000, whatever it is, I'm going to assume 400. That's sort of the equivalent of 2 RESP contributions. It's kind of, I think it's a little over 200 you can put per kid every month. But I'm going to assume you're putting that money over here in a traditional investment. Okay. And I'm going to say you're putting it there for 12 every month for 15 years. So month 1, you're at 400, then it's 800, then 1,200, and 16, and you get it after year 1. You've got $4,800, $5,000, give or take, sitting there. Okay. We're going to give you a 5% ROI. That's return on investment. Now, that's high. It's going to be tough for you to get that, especially over 15 years. We've went through a couple of good years. So financial advisors are like, hey, look at these numbers. The 15-year average is not that. Okay. But we're going to give that to you. And after 15 years, you've got 107,000. So you might be looking going, hey, that's great. Because when you sat down with the financial advisor at your kitchen table or in their office in the bank, they laid this out on the paper, on the computer, on the spreadsheet, and mission accomplished. They got you 5% return. You're only putting $400 a month away. That's it. You've got $107,000. So they've done what they need to do. They've taken their cut out of all that. Every year they're taking money away out of your pocket. Now I ask you, what can you do with $107,000? Are you even going to be able to send your kids to college in 15 years? I don't know. It's not a lot of money. Is that going to impact you in retirement? I know it was only $400 a month, but that's the hamster wheel you get on with these traditional investments. All right. Like, what can you actually do with that? So the whole purpose of what we're doing tonight is, like, if there's one thing I can ask you is, like, I want you to look at yourself and just go, am I doing the best with what I have? If you're putting $100 away, is that the best place for you to put 100? If you're putting 1,000, is that the best place? That's all I'm asking. Okay. Put your hand up, say, wow, change your thought. Say, I wanted to see the numbers on paper for our scenario. Okay. So now we're going to look at real estate. So borrowing $100,000, this is the one property blueprint. So you kind of already know this is going to play out, but to borrow $100,000, it would cost you approximately $400 a month. Okay. So I'm just saying, stop putting your 400 over here and instead put it over here. So there's no more money out of pocket for it. You're just changing where the money goes investment wise. Now I've got a scenario I'm going to work up for you later where it actually won't even cost you money to buy a property. Okay, I'll show you that and you'll be like, wow, didn't even think that was possible. So for this example, it's costing you not $1 more. We're just changing where you're allocating those funds. Okay, that's going to allow you to buy a $500,000 property, and we're going to hold it for 15 years. We're going to do 5% a year appreciation, gives us the $1 million property. We're going to back out $250,000 mortgage. We're going to pay back that initial $100,000 that you borrowed. So now that's whole wherever you took it from. I've got $688,000. Okay, one property blueprint. There's no magic pill here. The ROI is considerably higher, and I didn't even factor in cash flow, which is going to make it, probably 750% your ROI. So it's just on the left, you're starting at $400 a month. On the right, you're starting with a $500,000 investment, and someone else is paying down your mortgage. Okay. Like I said, you pay thousands of dollars for someone to give you a complicated way of showing you this. I'm just laying it out here for you. I've had these conversations with financial advisors, and I'm like, I'll bring it on. Like, if you're financial, let's talk through the math here. It's tough. It's tough for them to back up their scenario. Okay. I haven't talked to anyone yet that's done it. The only thing we end up coming up with is it's better to diversify yourself. I don't necessarily agree with that. But here you go. So now we're going to use a what if. This is for all the conspiracy theorists out there that are like, real estate just can't go up 5% a year. It just can't. Like, it's trending so high now. The bottom's got to fall out. Okay. All right. Let's play along. I'll play the game. So we're going to say for 15 years, the property is only going to appreciate 2% a year. Okay. Not 5, 2. That, like, Alberta is going to appreciate more than that over a 15-year period. So there's no way that they're going to outperform the GTA in Hamilton. There's no way. But we're going to say this. And then we're going to double your return on your investments. So once again, not going to happen. I'm sounding like a broken record here, but it's true. Not going to happen. But we're going to say what if. Okay. You get almost, when we factor cash flow in, it's closer to 250% higher. So almost double your money in real estate by not costing you $1. That property is going to carry itself. It's going to be cash flow neutral, no money out of your pocket, just allocating the 400 you're putting here, and we're putting it over here. All right. You're going to earn a 200% return over your traditional investments. And look at the numbers, 2 versus 10. So I always say, run the race the right way. So imagine we're doing a 100-meter dash, and I'm team real estate. And, I'm starting with that $500,000 investment property, and your team traditional investment. Well, because I'm starting at $500,000 with someone paying my mortgage down, and you're starting at 400, 800, 1200, 1600, like, you're starting at the start line, and I'm starting at the 90-meter line. Like, I will beat Usain Bolt all day long in a race. I will be the fastest guy in the world. You cannot beat me in that race. Okay. So just run the race the right way. Are you doing the best with what you have? Ask yourself that question and be honest. And if you don't know, then ask someone that will be able to show you. Okay. So now we're going to do another crazy example. We're going to say that $500,000 property you buy today, 2020 or 2021, and we're going to say that property never goes up in value. So 2035 comes by, and your $500,000 property in the GTA is still worth $500,000. Then what? Okay, let's see. So you still earn 50,000 more, and it's actually higher. It's closer to 100,000 more with real estate. So your investments need to hum along at 5% a year return, which not going to happen. And the real estate literally does not have to go up $1, and you still win. And the reason being is someone else is paying your mortgage down. You're forced to pay that mortgage down. The bank says you got to make the mortgage payment. So someone has to pay it. And as they pay that down, there's interest they're paying, but there's also principal. And that principal becomes equity, which becomes profit for you. Okay. And after 20 years, you're 60,000 plus with cash flow. It's, closer to 200. So if your property does not go up $1, you haven't spent any more money in your monthly budget, real estate still far outperforms any of your traditional investments. Okay, this is just math. I didn't make this up. These are the numbers. Okay. So there has to be a little bit of a wow factor there. And then I say, but wait, there's more. So I feel like the slap chop infomercial guy. Some people say I look like him. I'm like, I don't look like that guy. I hope not. But anyways, what if we could accomplish you buying that property without increasing your monthly budget? So I already showed you a way that where we wouldn't, but that was assuming that you were putting $400 away a month. So I'm going to paint a scenario for you, and I'm going to walk you through a budget on this later. But this is 70% of our clients. This is the case. So some of our clients are like, hey, like we're going on mat leave, or I'm self-employed, and or kids are in daycare, or like we just don't have. And so I say, okay, let's look at your family budget. So we'll add up all of your housing costs, property tax, condo fees, if applicable, mortgage, heat, all the bills you're spending, car payments, any debt you're carrying. Investments, sure. If you're putting money aside for investments, great. If not, it doesn't matter. That all, let's just say that all adds up to $3,000 a month. And then I'll say, okay, can you extend that budget at all? And you're like, we can, but we'd rather not. So let's just see what you can do. Say, okay. And we've done this for many, many of our clients. Well over 200 of our clients have done it this way. We will build out a proposal as long as we can qualify. It makes sense. And we'll show you how your $3,000 a month payment for everything for your family stays at $3,000. Okay. And allows you to buy an investment property. So we do that all day long. I'll show you an example of this later on. Okay. Okay. So old school, excuse me, I'm going to have a drink because I'm the only one talking. Okay. So old school, there's an old school way of investing, an old school way of retiring. We were taught this from our parents and our parents' parents, and it was literally get your mortgage, pay it down, and you've hit the promised land. Like you can retire and move to an island. Not really, but you get it. David Chilton, the wealthy barber, once again dating myself, he gave this advice: throw all your money into RSPs. He did have really good advice: pay yourself first, but he didn't mention the real estate part, which is true leveraging yourself. It was more of a tax, defer the tax component. So the old school way of retiring and investing was like literally grind away at your job, pay as much as you can against your mortgage because debt is bad, debt is bad, debt is bad. Get it off the books as possible, quick as possible. And now we're going to add up your RSPs, your TFSAs, your mutual funds, plus the equity in that home that you paid off. And that's going to equal retirement. Okay. That's the old school way. Now there's a new school way of thinking. And this is what a lot of families are doing, especially in the GTA. You can't do this new school way in Alberta. They haven't been given the opportunity. We're not more special than they are because we bought a home and it went up $400,000 already. It's just, we're a product of where we live. We're extremely, extremely lucky, but we need to capitalize on that. Otherwise, we're missing out on an opportunity. So the new school way of investing and retiring is this. You use the money in that principal residence and you buy more real estate. You do it in a very safe, risk-averse way, low maintenance way, and you hold it for 10, 15, 20 years. Okay. Then what you have is you have your investments, if you still have those going, plus you have equity in multiple properties. And I'm going to show you some math after this. That equals retiring on your own terms, AKA living the good life. You have opportunities. You have things you can do now. You've got I'll show you, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but there's a lot of money at the end of that rainbow, like millions and millions of dollars. Okay. So how will that impact your life? And we did all this, keep in mind, I'm going to keep reminding you, without changing your payment. Okay. So I'm going to break down, this is actually a way you can get this up to $3.6 million, but how to create $2 million. This is that visual that I'm going to show you. Okay. Because I can tell you till the cows come home, but you need to see it if you're anything like me. And maybe this will be like, okay. Kind of get it. I make it look simple on here. There are some moving parts. So you're going to buy that first investment property. This is the one property away, the one property blueprint. So this is, we get you the 100,000. So all you put in the investment so far will be 100,000, and we have ways to get that. Okay. Now after 3-4 years, that property is going to go up in value and a tenant's going to pay the mortgage down for you. So that's going to create some equity in that property. So we're going to refinance. So in 3-4 years, we're going to refinance. There's going to be no more money out of your pocket. You don't have to put another dollar into any of this to create these millions of dollars, okay? We're going to refinance, you're going to buy another property. So after 3-4 years, you own 2 properties, okay? Then we're going to repeat this again. So in another 2 years, so now that's 5 to 6 years from when you bought the first one, we're going to refinance property 1 and property 2. Your principal residence stays along. You're paying that down. We're not touching that unless we want to, but we don't. In this example, we're not touching it. You don't put any more money in yet. We're just pulling the equity out. We're using those properties as vehicles, much like we did your principal residence, okay? Now we have 3 properties. So after 5-6 years, you own 3 properties and you've only put in $100,000, which did not change your payments from day one, okay? After 15 years, we've created $1.6 million, and after 25, 3.6. Like, it's literally that simple. This is a course. I've already had people tell me, make this into a course, polish it up a little more and go sell this and retire. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm doing. That's not my goal. My goal is to lay this out and go, there's no crazy formula here. Time is on your side, so you can see these parts here. Okay, so there's a lot of money at the end of the rainbow. So $3.6 million from an initial $100,000 investment that you just pulled out from equity in your home. It wasn't even money coming out of your pocket. Okay, so net worth after 15 years. So I'm going to show you old school versus new school, kind of the money you're leaving on the table. So old school after 15 years, you'll have equity in your property of about $1.2 million. I used a $700,000 home. So assuming the home you live in now is approximately $700,000, okay? The new school way, after 15 years, because we bought the 3 properties, which you saw in the diagram there, $2.8 million. So we have created $1.6 million, and you did not, 70% of our clients don't even change their monthly payments. So if you're at $3,000 all in right now, we will get you $3,000 all in ongoing and show you how to create millions of dollars. Okay. And then after 15 years, numbers are massive, $3.6 million. It's actually a lot higher with cash flow. It's closer to 400,000 or 4 million, sorry. So, I keep saying it, but like, you have not changed anything in your scenario. We're just allocating money that you're not even touching right now. It's just assets that you own. And we're just kind of moving them around strategically, and we're using other people's money. Okay. So the question I have for you is, would you rather be mortgage free in 25 years? So this is what you're doing right now. You're paying down your mortgage, maybe even doing prepayment privileges and hammering away the mortgage because that extra $2,000 a month in your pocket when you're mortgage free, that's what you told yourself retirement is going to be. Would you rather be mortgage free in 25 years, or would you rather have 5 years left on your mortgage but be worth 3.6 million? And why I say that, because you're kind of like, where'd that come from? I'll tell you right now. When we initially took out the $100,000 out of your property, to offset the mortgage payment with that, the trade-off is we add 5 years to your mortgage. So if your mortgage is at 20 years right now, to pull out 100,000 and keep your payments the exact same, your amortization will go up to 25 years. Okay, so you might be thinking, oh, I don't want to add years to my mortgage. I'll tell you this, you've got $3.6 million sitting there. You can just go pay off. You're going to have like $80,000 left on your mortgage. You got millions. You just paid off. So in this example, after 25 years, you are exactly where you need to be. You are going to be mortgage free, but you're going to have millions of dollars in the bank. Okay. And a pension. You're going to be building a pension off these properties. So this is a new thing I threw in here because a couple times, but taxes, tenants, and typhoons. And what I mean by this is this. All the stuff I've been showing you has been like, man, this sounds so great. This doesn't cost me $1. You're not going to charge me. Lambros isn't going to charge me. I don't have to pay anything monthly. I'm just going to make these millions of dollars. Like, what's the catch? And I'm here to tell you, well, there's a couple catches. Like, nothing in life is super easy. You are running a business. So even if you just buy one property, you're running a business. So we have to have the proper bookkeeping in place. You're going to track receipts as you need to, but there's easy ways to do that. You are going to owe money on taxes. People always say, what about capital gains when you go to sell? Well, I'll tell you right now, those properties we're talking about, the 3-4 properties, there's ways to not pay capital gains. It means you just never sell the property and you just hand off your estate, down to the next in line. And you just keep pulling equity out by refinances, and it's tax-free money you're pulling out. That's just one strategy. But sure, are you going to have to pay taxes? Yeah, if you go to sell those properties, damn straight you're going to pay taxes. But you're still going to be left with millions of dollars more than you would have if you didn't do this. Okay, so I'm not skirting around that part. There's going to be taxes to be paid. All right, now tenants. There's horror stories out there. You hear them in the news. This is a big objection I get from people. I don't want to be a landlord. You know what? If you buy the right property in the right area with the right pricing on it, and you do the right due diligence up front, you limit the risk extreme amounts you limit it a lot. So you'll get the right tenant in there. There'll be less issue, but you know what? People are people. People get thrown curveballs. Could you have a bad tenant? Absolutely. There's, I can tell you some horror stories, but I can also tell you hundreds of success stories. And so nothing's is so easy that there's going to be millions of dollars at the end. There's always an element of risk in something you do. So, but you can mitigate it by doing a lot of upfront work with the right type of property, the right team in place, and ongoing, there's some precautions you can take. Okay. And I'll show you how to do that. And then typhoons. Yeah. Sorry to say, but shit happens. There's been floods. There's been, in the properties, there's been leaks, there's been fires, there's been holes in walls. I'm not saying my stuff. I'm saying from all the tenants, over 300 families I've helped buy, there's stories that come up, but they are very, very minimal. And guess what? We got insurance, and people go in and they cover your mortgage payments and they do the work, and you're not doing anything. And it's not personal because it's not a home you live in. It's like a number decision. It just comes down to the math, and that's a property, and that's going to get me to retirement. So if someone puts a hole in the wall, that's okay. I got insurance. I've got their deposit. There's other ways around that, right? So this is me just telling you that everything is great and everything is good and it's completely worth doing, but there's always little bumps in the road. Okay. So I want to put it out there because we're not hiding anything here. Okay. So myth or fact? Paying off your mortgage will lead to financial freedom. I think we covered this. If you asked my grandma, she would say, no, you pay off your mortgage because that's what Oprah says, and she does everything that Oprah says. But I tell you, she still will listen to me on this. It's not true. You're going to have no mortgage, which is great, but then you're going to have to take that. Now you've got this $2 million property, and now you need access to the money to go retire and live your life. Well, we're going to put a reverse mortgage on now. So you're just going to spend your whole life paying the mortgage off, and now you're going to go take a mortgage back, or you got to sell it and downsize, and then you have the lump sum of money that just sits in a bank account and does nothing for you. Okay, so this is not true. That is definitely a myth. Being a landlord is hard work. Absolutely, it could be if you want to be involved. We touched on this earlier. You do not have to be. I'm a lazy investor. I am so lazy. I haven't seen properties in years. I'm not saying that's a good thing, because a lot of my clients go and see it twice a year just to see. They want to see the whites of the eyes of tenants. They want to see what's going on in the property. It keeps them on their feet, holds them accountable for things. Me, myself, I'm lazy. I have property management in play, so they're sort of my eyes and ears. If you've got a tool belt and you want to go fix things, you can do that. If you want to put some sweat equity in and do some renovations on the property, you can do that. That's not my cup of tea. I own 3 tools. My kids wish I owned more because they want to watch me fix stuff, but I don't. It's not my strong suit. Okay. So I'm telling you, you do not have to be involved. That's a myth. Your kids will need help to buy a home. Oh my goodness. If you have kids, they absolutely, without a doubt, will need help. I help people all day long right now, and you have kids coming out earning $40,000, $50,000, and they're trying to buy a starter home, and they either get an early inheritance or the parents have to co-sign. And now I just think 15 years from now, if your kids are going to be going to school, their income is going to be $80,000 with inflation, and the properties are going to be $700,000, $800,000. It doesn't compute. You're going to have to give them hundreds of thousands of dollars then. So I say, if you're going to help your kid down the road, if you have that mindset that everything I'm doing right now is I'm going to help them with their first home when the time comes, just do it now. Get into 2020, 2021 prices. Leverage your money now. Instead of you putting in $250,000 down the road, put in 100 now and go create 700,000 and then split it amongst your kids or give them that property, or, you know, you have options. You get $700,000 there. Okay. So that's a fact. They're absolutely going to need help. And then this is one kind of a funny thing here, because does it affect what happens the next couple of years? No, I played the long game. Everyone's a peanut gallery. Everyone's got an opinion on real estate. And if it's going up and down, no matter what day of an article you read, it literally doesn't matter, because I'm not selling anything ever. And I'm playing the long game. So if real estate goes like this, that's fine. I know it's going this way, but there might be like this. I'm okay. Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't affect me. Okay. Play the long game. If we were flipping homes, different scenario. If we were doing rent to own, different scenario. Okay. So owning investment property, like having a second job. I know there might be people on this presentation that do have that second job because they got to put food on the table and they're trying to provide that living. And I'm just saying, if we can change our perspective a bit and do the most with what we have, we get that investment property in play. It is like having a second job because of the equity you create. So after year one, $32,000 in equity, 36 after 3, 44,000 after 7, $50,000 a year is coming in after year 10, after 15, 63. So you have 3 properties plus cash flow. You have over $200,000 coming in, and your net worth and cash flow combination by owning 3 properties. Like, just look at that and go, interesting. I'm busting my butt doing this. And that's great because it's building character and your family seeing it and they love you for it. But just try to do the best with what you have. There might be an easier way. Okay. Okay. So this was a big reason why people did not want to buy their first investment property. And it was, I don't know where to start. Don't know who to trust. And I am literally here telling you, Lambros is here telling you that there is, I'm just gonna put them all out here. We've got you covered. There's this big button. That button's like our phone number and our email. And we know all these people that are going to come into this transaction. So you get the ability to leverage our relationships, and we've vetted all these people. So, and I'm telling you, we've worked with some interesting characters. My aunt always told me, if you have nothing nice to say, say interesting. So we worked with some interesting characters, and we've sorted through those interesting characters. And I've got a Rolodex of this. Lambros does as well. We know the good ones, and they pick up the phone when we call. Everyone's connected. So you get to rely on that. You just press that button and we'll build a fence around you with our team. Okay. If you have other people you want to weave into that are good at what they do in investing in real estate, absolutely. But if not, we got you covered. Okay. Okay. So this might look like a lot here. I'm going to walk you through this because this might be one of the more important things you're going to see on here. Don't get too caught up in all the numbers. And this is a single income family. It is a police officer from Hamilton. They have 3 kids. Mom was a stay-at-home mom, obviously. All kids are under the age of 8. And they were introduced to us for a refinance. And I was like, hey, Ryan, you should talk to these people for a refinance. I said, okay, great. Got him on the phone. The wife broke down on the phone. She was crying. I could tell they were at their wits' end. They're maxed out everywhere, and they need some help with a refinance. I said, absolutely. Let's look at this. Let's also look at what you're doing investments-wise. They're like, we don't have investments. Can't even think that far ahead. We earn $110,000 a year. We're going to have a pension, but like we can't see through the weeds right now. I said, okay. So there's scenarios on the far right. If you follow along with me on the far right, 123 Smith Street, right up there, their current amortization was 23.5 years. Okay. That's the amount of time they had left in their mortgage. We don't have to get into anything else. You know, the interest rate is what it is. Didn't really matter what it was. Their mortgage balance was $413,000. So if you go down to the yellow, 2440, that's their mortgage payment plus their property taxes. And then if you go down to the next yellow, 1301, well, if you see there, they had $101,000 of unsecured debt. Now, don't judge because you might have more than this, less, none. We see this all the time, okay? This is not uncommon, all right? They were in a pickle. They were in a bad spot. And these are all the payments associated with on the far right. Those are just minimum payments. Like the principal is not being paid down. It's just churning itself over. And so all in, every month, they were spending $3,741 a month just to get by. This doesn't include groceries. This doesn't include car payments. Doesn't include entertainment, like any of that stuff. Okay, so they were perfect candidates for refinance. We could absolutely do it. What I realized was they were also had the opportunity to create something for retirement. And so this is what I presented to them. And this is exactly what they executed and bought a property. So let's go to the middle budget, the refinance. So if you look at the top there, 30 years. So we added 6.5 years on their mortgage. So that was the trade-off. They wanted upfront cash flow, but they decided to add years on the mortgage, but which they could pay their mortgage off in probably 12 years. Okay. So that they did have to do that. Their interest rate, 2.79, just so happened to be better. Even if that interest rate was 4%, this still makes sense to do. Okay. So their mortgage amount, if you look in the yellow, was 645. So we had to increase it. And then this is where the money went, right below it. These are all their closing costs. So 645, we backed out legal, appraisal, the 100,000, that's paying out all that unsecured debt. There was a penalty to pay. That's to break their initial mortgage with the lender. Cost of doing business. They're much further along. We're paying out high interest debt, 18% interest debt, and swapping it out 2.79% interest debt. And then if you look in the red there, the 126, we left them with this money. This was sitting in their bank account. Okay. So we'll explain where that went. And you push down, their mortgage payment was $2,641, their new mortgage payment. So you're like, well, Ryan, the mortgage payment went up about $600 a month. You're right. Absolutely it did. And we added 6.5 years. Okay. And this still makes complete sense. So all in, their new monthly payment was $3,019. But here's where the magic starts to happen, is all their debt's paid. So you can believe all the stress that came out of this. That's all gone. Unsecured debt is paid. There's no hamster wheel with the debt anymore. And their new monthly payment, all in, bottom in the green, is $3,047. So we saved them about $700 a month in cash flow in their pocket, took away all the stress they have with all their unsecured debt. Okay. Now here's where it gets even better. On the far left, we went and bought them an investment property. So they bought a $565,000 investment property. So ignore the 7.43% cap rate. That's kind of an advanced thing. We don't need to get into that here. 30-year amortization. Interest rate was 3.14. Property taxes were $29.75. So the mortgage they put on the property was $452. So they bought it $565 and they had 20% down. But there's also closing costs. So if you follow along here, we have their down payment plus their closing costs, land transfer tax. I don't need to get into this too much. What you need to focus on is in the red. This is what they need to show up to their lawyer with: a check for 123. It's called 124,000. Well, we had that. It was sitting in their bank account. So they had that money. Okay. Now their new mortgage payment was $1,935. Property taxes. Now this property, it had 2 units. It was an up and a down. One for 21 and one for 14. So they got $3,500 a month in rent. So this negative here, 1317, that's money in their pocket. If there was no negative there, that means money they'd have to put in to cover the cost. So they saved $700 a month on their refinance, paid off $100,000 of unsecured debt, no more stress, $1,300 a month here. We just gave them $2,000 a month more in their pocket, and they bought a $565,000 investment property. Like, whoa. When we presented this to them, they didn't know. They thought it was just a refinance. And I said, well, no, let's take it a step further. Let's do this. And this is why. Because in 15 years, you'll have $1 million sitting there. Let's do that. And they're like, wow. And so when they executed this finally and actually did it, and they did it very quickly, when I talked to them on the exit call, they had tears of joy. She did. They didn't think they could do this. They said, we know people that invest in real estate. We didn't realize that was us. We didn't think that we could, especially on just one income. Thank you so much. You've just changed like how we think about everything. And so they're planning on doing another property. So we're kind of just starting the conversation there. Okay. So this is what we do. The reason I wanted to show you this is we don't do this just for people looking to buy investment properties. We do this if you're a first-time home buyer, if you're looking to sell and buy, if you're looking to refinance, whatever you're looking to do, buy 2 properties, we break it down in a customized budget for you, tailored to your situation. Okay. So there's a big wow factor here because like we love doing this, and we'll record a video of us walking you through it. So then you have it because you're drinking from a fire hose, kind of like you are now. And so we'll give that to you so you and your significant other or you can just watch it at your own leisure and reference it when you want. Okay. So that's a pretty cool thing that we do. Okay. So we're pretty much done. We have a couple more slides, but then we're done. These are easy ones. How can you get started? If you're excited, if you've said, hey, we want to learn how we can do the most with what we have, we at least just want to look at it. I'm saying just put your hand up. That's all we're asking. Visit onepropertyway.com. You can complete, there's a 4 or 5 question quiz there. Complete that, and then we're going to shoot you an email. After you get that email, there'll be a link to our calendar. You'll book a call. We'll jump on a strategy call to see if this is something that we can do. And then if it is something we can do, we'll build out a customized proposal, much like you just saw for you. If you say, hey, don't increase our payments, let's just see what you can do. We'll do that. If you say, hey, we've got $500 a month to spend, then we'll take that in consideration. Okay. And then you start shopping your properties. And we go, hey, Lambros, they're ready to go. John and Sally are ready to go. Here's their budget, $500,000 property. And we want to keep the rent, $2,100 and $2,400. And they want low maintenance. They want it. They don't want to do a lot of work themselves, and go find them awesome tenants. Okay. So that's how it works. So last slide, and then we are done. And then we will take any Q&A that we have. Change your story, change your life. So I say like this, I know like 95% of us like really don't like what we do for a living. It's the stats. We don't like getting out of bed. It's tough. You go to work, you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing this for? I'm doing it because I'm putting food on the table for my family. And that's what you got to do. People are relying on you. But I say this, what if we change the story? What if we say, hey, you know how you're grinding away and you're working? What if we do better with what you have and we buy you an investment property, and we maybe buy you 2 or 3. And now at least you know that there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Maybe you know that everything you're doing, the overtime you're working, time away from your family, the job you're at that you really deep down don't like, it's not your passion, there's millions of dollars there. So now there's a reason. There's kind of like, I feel better. Do you think that would make you feel less stressful? Do you think you'd be more present at home with your family and with the kids? I know I was. I know I would. I know a lot of our clients, they're in the same mindset. So I just say, if we can change that story for you, like, would it change your life? I know it would. Okay. So thank you very much. Onepropertyway.com. Thank you for spending the time with us today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I've been talking a lot, and I'm going to bring it over here to Mr. Lambros. Okay.
Oh. Thanks, Ryan. That was fantastic. Thanks for taking us through that.
Yeah, you got it.
Wonderful.
You know what, Lambros?
Yep.
I've got a question for you because we're in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
And I get hit with this question a lot, and I'd love to get your perspective on it. Is
sure.
Would you invest in real estate right now in COVID? Like, what would Lambros do if you were in someone's?
Lambros 100% would invest right now. I mean, I can't speak for others, but I mean, I can speak for myself. I would invest right now, and anyone who has the resources and the wherewithal to invest right now, I mean, it's certainly a good time. I know there's some, fear, some anxiety, things like that going on right now with COVID. But as you mentioned before, the real estate market, yes, it will have some ups and downs, but over the long term, and we are playing the long-term game here. I'm a big fan of buying and holding as well, not flipping. But over the long term, it is going to go up. It's been going up for the last 30 years. It's been going up for the last 50 years. So over the long term, it's still going to go up. It's still the best investment you can make. I think it's the best investment I can make, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And so as I'm looking for investment property right now, so it is an excellent time to invest, certainly. And I want to speak to one thing as well, because you mentioned about unemployment, and sure, there's a lot of people who are worried about unemployment, but it seems to be the people who are thinking about investing in real estate, they usually have higher paying jobs, and they don't have the lower paying jobs, which those people tend to rent. unfortunately, those people are the ones who have been hit hardest for the unemployment. The higher wage earners have remained relatively unscathed throughout this COVID-19 situation, and you can comment on that as well, because I mean, I'm sure you're seeing applications all the time for people buying real estate. So they haven't. Their position hasn't been affected that much with respect to COVID-19, right?
Yeah, we're seeing that too. And you know what, like the perfect candidate to buy your first investment property, obviously anybody, but I'm saying,
Yeah,
because we see a lot of applications, and like it's someone who, you know, their home's worth, you know, anywhere from 800 to 900. I'm not saying there's discounts if you aren't, but this is typically what we're seeing, to your point, that we haven't seen the people losing the jobs. The household incomes combined is in the 150, 175 range. You've got a couple $100,000 of equity in your home, and you're putting money aside for your kids or in your RSP, saying that's going to make a change down the road. And those people in that scenario, and if you're better off, even better, but you can build a 3-4 property portfolio very, 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 very easily. And so we have people doing that. So, and to your other point, real estate, playing the long game.
Yeah.
Sure, you get it now, but we even showed the scenario that what if real estate didn't go up $1? Like it didn't go up $1, and you still came out a good chunk ahead of a traditional investment getting 5%. And so, I like real estate.
And we just have to look at recent history, because as people who have been following the real estate market know, since about say 2016, prices were skyrocketing. And then about March or April 2017, they came down, right? Because we had the whole fair housing or the Ontario government introduced some the foreign buyers tax, et cetera. So we had a bit of a lull there. So if you had bought, let's say in January or February of 2017, then and you sold about halfway through the year in the summer, you would have lost money. But if you had kept that property, now prices are higher than where they were at the beginning of 2017. So they've rebounded. So you've made your money back, and you keep holding that property, it's only going to continue to go up.
Yeah, you're right. If you buy, and that's with most things, even if you were to buy in a hot market, let's say you bought a property in a hot market and you were going to sell it like within the first year. In a hot market, you're going to lose money because you've got your exit costs. You've got real estate fees. You've got to pay mortgage penalty. You've got to pay lawyer fees. Could be capital gains if it's an investment property. So you only go into it thinking you're going to hold it long term. But the story I shared at the beginning, like that doesn't get enough due. I'm going to work that into the presentation, because like someone owning a property for 4 years protected their current home, because life threw a massive curveball at them, as it did with all of us. And they literally would have had to sell their principal residence if they didn't have that property. That was like, it's a big wow factor for me.
Great story. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool.
Very cool.
So I want to ask you, because it's one thing for us to tell you and show you all these numbers, but do you have a scenario of someone that you helped, kind of like where they were before, how you helped them, and where they're at today?
I mean, I've got a lot of stories like that, but I want to speak a little bit to the emotional side of buying real estate, because, I mean, there's definitely, some anxiety going in there, especially now with with COVID and all this stuff happening in the world right now. So I'm going to go back about 4.5 years, not even 5 years ago. I think it was late 2015. Young guy, well, not so young anyway, but a middle-aged guy. He was younger than me anyway, which doesn't sing much. I mean, he was renting his whole life pretty much. And he wanted to buy his first condominium, right? But he barely qualified. So he had to scrape, he had to save, he had to beg, borrow, and steal pretty much. But I mean, he went to family, they wouldn't lend him money. I remember he said spoke to his godfather, and his godfather turned him down. So everybody was turning him down, but he was determined to buy that investment property. So his mortgage broker at the time played out a scenario similar to what you do here. And what they did was, some alternative lending. I don't remember exactly what the situation was, but he would have to pay a higher interest. He would have to borrow some more money. So there was all this other extra funds going in, and I remember the conversation I had with him. It was just, he was so scared. He was like, I'm going to spend so much money. It may not even be worth for me to buy this condo. And we're talking about a $200,000 condo here. At that point in time, about 5 years ago, that's how much it was. We actually ended up buying it for $208,000. He bit the bullet. He bought it because it was the cost of doing business, right? And I think you touched on that point in your presentation, the cost of doing business, right? And at that point in time, he was unsure if it was the right thing to do. He was so scared. He couldn't sleep at night. He was telling me, did I do the right thing? He almost backed out of the deal, right? And here we are, 4 years later, that $208,000 condo is now worth mid threes. So he's more than 50-60% of the investment. He's gained back. And now he's talking to me about taking that money out and buying his first investment property. So now he's going to be owning 2 properties in a matter of 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah. So he bit the bullet with,
yeah.
And that could have been, we have a lot of clients that first-time home buyers, they buy with CMHC. Yeah. And so you pay this insurance premium on it. But,
right.
I always tell people, if someone's going to give you $400,000 to go allow you to have a $500,000 asset, if they're going to charge you 6% interest, you do it.
Yeah, you do it.
You still like, they're not going to, they're going to charge you, the A rates. But if that's your only option is to go that route, like get over it at 6%, the numbers still work. You're putting in $100,000. And this is what people lose sight of 100%. When you're investing. If you're going to invest $100,000, just if you have 100, go put it into an RSP. And let's say it's worth 110,000 after 1 year. You got 10% return. Okay. If you put that 100,000 into the one property blueprint, after year 1, you've got 25,000 in increased appreciation. And you've got about 9,000 in mortgage pay down. It's $34,000 after year 1. So your initial return on your 100,000 is 34% after 1 year. And then it starts compounding after that. So if you have to pay 6% interest, the numbers work if you pay 10% interest. I'm telling you, they work.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think his, I don't remember exactly, but it was around the 8%, 7-8%, something like that, that they were getting for him. Plus there was an additional, I think 6 month, you could probably speak more of this than I can, a 6 month second, I guess, loan that they were giving him at a higher, like a 10% or something like that. And he was freaking out about that. And now, I mean, that seems like peanuts compared to the equity that he's built, right? In that. So it was well worth it at that point. Well worth it.
Yeah, that's good. Well, hey, leverage is your friend.
Yeah.
And we've all done it already. Leverage is your friend. So
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see here. So everyone seems to have real estate figured out.
I think so. Yeah. I don't see any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead and write them in the Q&A section there. Or if you want to use the chat as well. I mean, I've got the chat open here. Go ahead.
Or if you just want life advice.
Yeah.
Don't put that in.
Yeah. I don't know why Jakey J is, sorry. I think I hit something by mistake there.
No worries. But hey, that's okay. If you don't have questions, that's okay. Obviously, we did very good on the presentation then, if there's not a lot of questions. Okay, there you go.
Well, let me ask you a question then, Ryan.
There is a question here. I'll let you.
One?
Yeah, I'll let you chime in on this.
Okay, hold on here. Let me get to that question. There it is. Okay, so Jesse is asking, in today's market, would you recommend a condo versus a house as a first investment property? That's a great question. I'll go first, Ryan, and then you can chime in for sure. I think whatever gets you into the market, Jesse, is a good investment. Condos typically, are priced less than houses. So if you can get your foot into the market now, as a condo and then build on that down the road. I mean, like I mentioned with my client about 4 years ago, he got into a condo, spent $200,000. Now it's worth $350,000, $360,000, or maybe more. I don't know. he hasn't even renovated. He hasn't even done anything to it, and it's already gone up that much in only 4 years. So whatever you can do to get your foot in the door would be great. I mean, ideally, yes, you'd want a house, because a house gives you the potential of earning double the revenue, or not double really, but at least 2 revenues, right? And Ryan mentioned cash flow, so that will help you be cash flow positive, or at worst cash flow neutral. With a condo, you may not make it, because I mean, you've got maintenance fees, you've got property taxes, you've got all these things that you have to worry about. And if the rent doesn't cover all that, then you're either neutral or cash flow negative. And even if you are cash flow negative a little bit, I don't think it's going to hurt you that much, because the appreciation will offset that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, those are good points, Lambros. My personal take on this is, a lot of times you're sort of pigeonholed into the condo, especially as a first-time investment, but that's not a bad thing. Me personally, I prefer condos. That's me, because there's low maintenance on it. With the house, you got to know what you're getting into. And so the decision usually comes down to this. If you're deciding between a condo and a house, and you only have X amount of down payment, and you want to be cash flow neutral, just use that for this example. You could be deciding between, a $400,000 condo with fees, or a $525,000 home. Well, you buy a $525,000 home, there's going to be some love involved. You're going to have to do some work. Yeah. You buy a $400,000, $350,000 condo, it's not going to be work involved. It's going to be easy peasy.
That's right. Yeah.
So there's trade-offs with everything.
Oh, 100%. Good point. So, and a lot of people aren't prepared for that. So they have to know what they're getting into. Yeah. So that's a very good point, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question. Okay. No more questions. Anybody?
Well, I want to go back to something you mentioned off the top, Ryan, about people not moving forward. Again, keep going back to my client. He almost did not move forward. But so let's explore that a little bit more. What's the biggest reason that you found that people don't move forward with it? Because it just makes so much sense. Your presentation was like, okay, a no-brainer. So why wouldn't they?
Yeah, from a numbers perspective, it is absolutely a no-brainer. I think the biggest objection I get, and a lot of them are really close to the top, but is, I just don't want to be a landlord. Like, you hear one horror story of that, and I couldn't get the tenant on it. I don't want to be a landlord. And I'm here telling you, you do not have to be. It depends on the type of property you buy. And so that's part of the vetting process up front when we're going through, like, how involved do you want to be? We're dealing with investors every day. We got a couple clients right now where, they've got 2 young kids, and they're literally like, Ryan, like, I don't want to touch anything. We're like, that's great. We're going to build in property management team. We're going to build in everything. We're going to get you a turnkey property with 2 units in it where there's no work. We're going to put the tenants in there. It's going to be property management. We're going to give the property managers $1,000 a month deposit, or not a month, $1,000 deposit. And they're not going to call you. If there's any issue below $1,000, your phone will not ring. You'll just get an invoice. You'll get an email. You'll know what happened. They'll be for bookkeeping. But if it's something bigger now, they're going to reach out to you, and then you're going to pick up your phone and get someone else to go deal with it. So that's the biggest one I get. And then the other one is, don't know if we can. And this comes down to, I think, I've been in this scenario earlier on in my life, and I remember looking beside when I was first starting out, probably 10, 11 years. I didn't own property at that time. And I'd had neighbors, and they were kind of in the same boat as us, but they'd own investment properties. And I was like, how did they own investment properties? But I know what they kind of make. We're all kind of in the same world. And you're like, no, they did this. Yeah. They literally did this, because I know them now. And I'm like, oh, and now I can advise them. But you always wonder, you're like, how is that person doing it? You know what? They did it.
They did.
They actually did. And they got the right team in place to go do it. They're not super smart. They just took action. It's not like they read a special book,
right?
Or bought that course.
Exactly.
You just need us. You just need a team in place.
Yeah.
That's going to, and so the most of it's mental.
That's right. And that's why I said there's that hurdle, that emotional hurdle that you have to get over, the anxiety, and just do it,
Yeah. And you'll see that when clients, a lot of them buy their first property, they look back and they reflect back on when they were negotiating over a $2,000 purchase price,
Exactly.
or they were, or they go
Yeah.
like, geez, why were we so like, this is so easy. It's been 10 months, and they get the itch. And then I get the email and it's like, hey, we want to do another one.
Yeah.
And then we want to do another one. I'm like, let's slow down. Let's like, time is our friend. And they're like, no, but it's so easy. And like, we're making so much money. I said, I know, it's so easy. And they're like, all of our friends think we're like, you know, I can't even use Trump now because, but you know, that analogy.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like, they're like, no, we're not. We just talked to Ryan. He just laid out like how to do this. And so
That's right.
I'm telling you, just at least look at the scenario, see it built out for you on a budget.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So
Good.
yeah, there you go.
Excellent.
Okay.
So it's about 20 after 8. Oh, by the way, Ryan, you do look a bit like the slap chop guy. Just going back to what
Oh God.
Yeah. So it's 20 after 8. Unless there's any other questions, we should wrap this up.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
And
I appreciate you having me on.
no problem. No problem. Thanks for being here, Ryan. And if anybody, again, wants to get a hold of Ryan, onepropertyaway.com. Oh, sorry. That's right. Is that it? Onepropertyaway.com. I said it right. Okay, perfect. I'll send out an email anyways to everybody who's on here, and you'll get the links to Ryan's website and our email addresses, phone numbers. So please feel free to reach out anytime. We'd be happy to answer your questions. As Ryan said, we don't charge anything. There's no obligation either. We just want to keep you informed and help you with your real estate decisions going forward. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for having me, man.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers. Cheers.